Hey, g'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow, and in this video we're going to run through how to Raptor line the back of your ute. Let's get started. And just like all the other videos on the channel, I will make sure I leave links to all the gear we use today listed in the video description. So we're continuing the build on the DMAX, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on at the back here. Step one of that though is to put a bed liner to replace the drop-in tub liner. Now, why should you consider doing this over one of these drop-in liners? And there's a couple of different reasons for me. One is you get a lot more clearance. You can see on the sides here that you are losing a whole bunch of space on both sides. It's about 30-40 mil on both sides, and it's about 50 mil at the back, which is pretty crazy. So you're going to get a little bit more room in the tub. And the other reason is underneath, where the factory drain holes are on these top liners, is it tends to just run straight underneath. And if you're not sort of going through the right angles, it's going to result in a bunch of water being left under there, a bunch of water, a bunch of rubbing. It's going to eventually start rubbing through paint and get some rust under there. So that's the main reason why I'm pulling all of this out, so that we can Raptor line the bed. So step one for us is removing the factory drop-in liner. If you don't have any of that, then happy days, you can skip this part. We also need to remove our roller shutter, our sail planes there, and for me, the 12-volt box. So now, if you're happy for your liner to go in the bin like mine, it makes life a lot easier just to snip right up the guts there to pull this out nice and easily. To get the roller shutter off, you've got these brackets all the way down. You just undo each of these, and up underneath this section here all together, including your sail plane at the top, will just slide off. Two-man job, one on either side, lift it up and out. So that's our first step. We need to get stuck into removing all of that so we have a nice bare tub. It should look a little bit like this, and you can see just how much space that we're losing, particularly at the back. Have a go at this. You can see down here, all of that, that's where our tub liner finished. Look how much space that is. I mean, we're losing about 90 mil, 100 mil at the back, and then all the way around at the sides there as well. So once we've got the tub ready to go and you've got everything cleaned out, we want to make sure you're removing any tie down points, all of anything that you don't want raptored, because once this stuff goes on, it ain't coming off. So you want to grab your 80 to 160 grit sandpaper. I actually prefer that 60 to 80 range, so it gets nice and roughed up, and it's a little bit quicker as well, because we do have a little bit to do here. The whole point of that is we need all this shiny, slippery sort of top coat and clear coat to be gone. We want it to be nice and roughed up and scuffed up. You definitely don't want to go back to bare steel though, then you'd need to prime that. So you just want to knock off this clear coat, get it all nice and scuffed up so that it's ready to be raptored. As far as the gear you need, it is pretty straightforward. You just need your sander of choice, just a random orbital I'll be using today, a whole bunch of your sanding discs ready to go. You're going to go through a few of those. Sanding blocks can be helpful too, particularly getting down in these valleys and that kind of thing. PPE also ain't no joke, so get yourself some goggles and a decent respirator. One of the spicy flu respirators ain't gonna do the job. You want something to stop any of this dust getting into the airways, so something like that. Once you've got your bits and pieces ready to go, set yourself up, grab a cold beer and have at it. This is going to take some time, but very important step. Prep is key here. The better you do at this, the longer your Raptor is going to last. And here we are. Here is everything all nice and sanded. It does take some time. This probably took an hour or two, so that's all good though. Prep is what makes a good paint job, and Raptor is no different. I've chosen to run a bit of a cap along the side here, so depending on what you're after, just double tape the heck out of the really straight line that you want so you can sand down the edges by hand. I've done the same on the underneath here as well for the tailgate itself, so I'm going to run this straight out of Raptor, so it'll come around here and then straight across on the top here as well. So from here, we now need to get all of this dust out. So best bet is use a leaf blower or something like that if you've got it, just to get the bulk of it out, get everything nice and dust free. Then you want to grab some terps or something similar. You then want to go over every little piece that you're going to be spraying with Raptor so that it is completely grease, wax and dust free. So give it a couple of wipes, at least 2 of them, and it should start looking a little bit like that. If you have any of your paint that's still really shiny, shiny, it's not sanded enough. You need to really make sure that that clear coat is well and truly gone. Check out down the sides as well. Make sure that your tape is all nice and intact on any lines that you're going to be spraying. If it's looking a little dodged, just give it another tape over the top of that. If there are any areas you're just finding impossible to get into to sand, Raptor do some of this stuff. It's an adhesion promoter, so you can use that and really help it stick in some of those hard to reach areas like down in corners and what have you. Anywhere where it has come down to full on bare steel, like probably this bit just here, recommend just using some primer, just giving it a quick lick of that. I've got some clear stuff that I'll be hitting these areas with. There's another area over here I went a bit Burko with. So any of those where you really are back to bare steel, it's recommended that you do prime those areas. So for me, I'm going to touch up those areas, get this back inside, and we can start taping up and covering the areas that we don't want Raptor, so we can start spraying Raptor in the back of the ute. And here we go, we are good to go. I've got everything all taped up. Make sure that anything that you don't want Raptor on is covered, because once this stuff sticks, it sticks. And this is an actual project where you're going to need a set of these, because I can tell you, if it gets on your skin, you're going to be scrubbing for days to try and get it off. So definitely recommend some gloves, whether they're blue or not. That's your choice. Now there's two different ways that you can apply Raptor, and I'm going to be using both so I can show you both of them in action. Now method one is a sprayer, and using an air compressor and their Schultz gun that comes with some of their kits. You need to get a compressor like Old Faithful here. It's going to be able to put out between 40 and 60 psi, and I'm going to be using this to spray most of the bed. These are really good because they give you a really nice texture, nice and even. For the tops though, for the caps and on the back of the tailgate though, I'm going to use a roller, and you can roll the whole lot if you prefer, if you don't have an air compressor. I'm going to be using this for our tailgates and all of the caps. So that's the two methods, and we're going to be using both today. Without further ado though, I think it's time that we pull this apart. We start mixing up our Raptor so that we can start spraying it into the back of the DMAX. Now it's important before you go starting to mix anything together, just take a breather, take a step back and plan out what you're going to be doing, because you are on the clock somewhat. Each bottle does have a flash time, and it is about an hour. So if it's a bit cooler, it's going to take a little bit longer. If it's a bit hotter, it's going to go a bit quicker. Now, final thing to note with this, particularly if you are using the Schultz gun, you should have some acetone or something similar ready to go to be able to clear the gun after each bottle. So you want to make sure you're ready to go with that. And the other thing is to have your compressor, old Bessie here, ready to go. Now 40 to 60, we're sitting a little bit high, we're at about 60. I'm going to split the difference and go at about the 50 psi mark. So that's our compressor ready to go there. So with all of that out of the way, we are good to go. It is time to fill, shake and shoot. So there's our first mix. Get our first bottle. And it's just a matter of pouring it all in. It may not look like it's going to fit, but it definitely does. We are just going with the full black here. This is where you'd add your tint if you are using a tintable version of Raptor. Don't forget to put your lid back on the hardener, and then we have our lid in here. Make sure that's done up nice and tight, and then from there you want a solid 2 minutes shaking. Don't skip this step. You want to make sure everything is nice and combined. Right, we are good to go here. Get ready to be able to get into your tub. We're going to go in the back here, nice even strokes, 30-40 centimeters away from where you're spraying. So there we go, that is one bottle. So it's about half, basically the whole back end there done and all the way down to the side. You want to make sure you've got that really nice even coat. As you can see, it's going on really, really well. That gives you an idea of the texture that you're going to get out of about that 50 psi. But for now, I need to hustle. I need to get the rest of this done. So second bottle on the way, get all that mixed up and finish the first coat. And there we go, first coat all done. It has used 2 bottles, about 1.5-ish actually, because we're going to use the remainder to do our end cap here on the tailgate, rolling that on, so I can show you that. But there you go, that gives you a bit of an idea of what your first coat should look like. It should be a nice and even coat. You don't want to go on crazy heavy, but you definitely want to do it so you start to see that uniformity of the texture. Works well for us because we want to get stuck into doing our end cap, and we're going to use the roller method so I can show you guys that. We're going to fill up the remainder into here, just like that. And then we're going to use our roller and just roll on our texture across the end cap of our tailgate. So the same as you'd use almost any other roller, the Raptor ones do come with quite an open weave. And the reason for that is it gives you a similar texture to spraying. So you just want to get it so that it's just enough, not push too hard, otherwise it will do that. But if you just go on gently like that, it will start to give you a similar texture. You're not going to be able to go as heavy a coat as what you do with the spray, because if you do, it won't come out very well. So take your time, expect to probably do an extra little coat on a roller compared to what you would if you were spraying. And you'll be able to see at the end of the video, I'll show you the difference. Once we're all dry tomorrow, we'll give you an example of what the difference in the texture looks like between rolled on versus sprayed on. Now, top tip in cleaning out your Schultz gun in between bottles is to grab an empty bottle, fill it up with acetone or with terps, that sort of stuff, and then give it a spray into a bucket until it cleans out. So you should get a nice clear mist. And once you've done that, you know the gun is nice and cleared out. You can then take it out of the bottle and it's good to go for the next one. Right, so it has been an hour and we're good to go here. Best way you can kind of test is just to give it a moderate pressure, and you shouldn't be able to see any fingerprints on the texture on the surface. It's not going to be crazy dry, so don't go sort of jabbing it or anything like that. From here, it's just a matter of a rinse and repeat. So that's my next step, is to spray the extra couple of bottles. With the wonder of the internets and YouTube, for me, this is going to take a couple of hours and then overnight. But for you, you get to see what this looks like in 3, 2, 1. Boom. Here we go, guys. This is 24 hours later, the wonders of YouTube, and here we go. Check that out. I reckon that has come up an absolute treat. Now, if we get stuck in and have a look at the texture, as you can see here, the sprayed texture is going to come up looking a little bit like that. I reckon that is pretty well perfect. And if we sort of have a bit of a look here, you can see just how that's come up. I reckon it looks an absolute treat. It is that texture that's not sort of too rough. It is got obviously a bit of texture to it, but it's nice and smooth at the same time. So no sort of spiky bits or anything like that. Oh yeah, check it out. I reckon that looks absolutely awesome. Now, if we have a look at down the bottom here where we've got the rolled on section. So if we just lift this guy up, if you remember on our capping, this has come up really well as far as a really nice, clean, crisp line on our cap. So gone is the plastic sort of version. We've got a full hardcore Raptor version now. As far as texture difference, I ended up spraying across the top here so you can get a really good view of what that texture looks like if it is sprayed. You can see it's sort of that bumpy texture. Now along here, this was rolled. So you can see in some sections, you know, you got to do a really good job on rolling really nice and evenly when you do, because you do run that risk of some spikier bits. We can see here the slight roll marks, nothing too crazy. For me, I think definitely spraying is the preferred method for me, because it really does just give you that really nice, even texture all the way around and really nice and uniform, particularly as it hardens. But you can definitely get away with a roller. So if you don't have access to a compressor or anything like that, a roller is going to work just fine. And there you go, guys. That is the quick guide on how to Raptor line, well, pretty much Raptor line anything, but Raptor line, in our case, the back of the DMAX. It's come up an absolute treat, and this stuff will last for years and years and years. Now, speaking of the back of the DMAX, there's going to probably be a question or two around, are we going to leave it like this? Almost looks like a bit of a Raptor. Do we leave it like this? Do we just sort of have a bit of a different view here, bit of a sort of nothing on the back type deal? I don't know. Well, of course we're not. You know, this isn't a video leave it as it is channel. We want to do some stuff. So there is definitely a whole bunch of stuff that's going to go on right here. Now, I'm not going to go into any detail, of course, got to leave you hanging a little bit, but safe to say this is stage 1 of lots of other things that are happening here, up here, etc, etc. I'll leave it there, but there is definitely more to come. But that's about it for today. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the DMAX build list. I'll put the link in the display list. We have stacks and stacks of videos. We're in the 40s now of the amount of videos for this build. So check those out if you're keen to trick out your truck. Lots of great content there. As always, guys, a massive, massive thank you to the Patreons of Video Show Me How. The extra support, guys, as always, massively appreciated. Thank you very much. But other than that, guys, I hope that you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.